Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Roberts. We are joined this evening once again by John Gallagher. John, good evening.
Thank you, James.
Last program before the referendum. Welcome to Effective, Efficient, Affordable, and above all accountable to you, program October 23rd. This is the show that takes a look at what we have here in Winsted and asks, can you actually afford budget number 4?
And that budget is coming up for a vote this Saturday, the 27th of October, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Pearson School. Too late for mail-in absentee applications. You're going to have to go down to the town clerk's office now. It is Tuesday night. They're closed, so you have Wednesday, Thursday night till 7, Thursday all day and till 7 o'clock at night, and then Friday till noon. So if you want to vote, if you're a property owner of $1,000 or more, can be a car, can be a boat, whatever you got, house, or you're a registered voter in the town, you can vote in this referendum on the 27th, or you can go and get an absentee ballot application, fill it out, submit it right back to the clerk. The clerk will give you the absentee ballot. You can go in the back room and vote. It's check either yes or no. We're checking no.
We are checking no. Say, for those of you who are about to change the channel, the quick and dirty summary of this budget is it's exactly the same as budget number 3, only worse. They've increased the spending a little bit. They've increased the number of Hartford-style financial tricks, gimmicks, if you like, to make it look like a zero. It's not really a zero. It has more spending than number 3. We will be voting no. We would say that you should vote no if you are looking for something that will make our government, our community, sustainable in the future.
So once again, the 27th, you have up until Friday at noon to vote absentee ballot. Couple other dates too. Today was the last day to register for the November election by mail, but you can register to vote in person up until a week from today, the 30th of October. If you go into the clerk's office or the registrar's office in person, you can register to vote for the November 6th election.
And that will be Pearson School too?
That will be Pearson School, and that will have a different time, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.
So, taking a quick peek at what is happening budget-wise. The yes crowd here in town, the majority of the Board of Selectmen, would like you to vote for this budget because they say it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing not to. I think from my perspective, from our perspective, whether or not it's embarrassing is not really the question, ladies and gentlemen. We need a budget that works for Winsted. We need a budget that actually identifies problems and begins to fix problems, that lays a foundation for a viable community going forward. We've lasted these 150 years, ladies and gentlemen, because we have managed to adapt to changing economic times, and we must do so again. We need a budget that recognizes that and that does that. What would be embarrassing would be to accept a budget simply because it's easier than saying no. If it's not important what's in the budget, why don't we just have a budget that buys $30 million worth of candy bars? If you don't care what's in the budget, that presumably would be just as good a budget as what you have in front of you. The fact of the matter is they would both be bad budgets. We don't need $30 million of candy bars, and we don't need $30 million of more spending in the same way that we have spent in the past 10 years that we have spent without success.
And that spending doesn't produce an audit.
No.
So
here we are without an audit for June 2011, without an audit for June 2012. Now, it's your question to judge as to whether this is just a result of incompetence, whether someone is trying to hide something, or whether there's a deeper-seated mistrust between the folks who run the government here in town and you, the voters. I don't know, but you have the right, I think we have the right to know where our money is being spent. It's a pretty simple, fundamental thing. If we are expected to pay taxes to pay for our government, we should know what our government is doing with the money.
And it's persistent. It's not only 2011, 2012 not in, but the previous years were late also.
Horribly late.
So
and it's just not
I mean, it's become just like the New York legislature.
Right, and it's not just the impact on us, the community. It's the impact on our lenders. I mean, people in town are talking about going out and borrowing money for schools or roads or whatever it may be. Without a record of audits in place, clean audits, satisfied accountants, we can't borrow a dime. You know, we are effectively out of the financing business until such time as we get our financial house in order. But enough of the audience. A quick recap on the reval.
Reval, we presented last week, approximately 37 properties were sold in the quarter from 1st of July to 1st of October. That will be the last piece of data that can be used in the October 1st, 2012 grand list. They are proceeding to put the new grand list together. We are approximately I would say 3 weeks to a month away from mailings to each individual property owner. I would say mid-November, but it will be out no matter what by the 1st of December, because you start going into the statutory phase where you have to convene appeals boards, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that is run on a fixed schedule in the early spring. Or late winter, late winter. What we saw in the last piece of data was the downtown, once again, was hit. And we can't say hit. The values decreased significantly. And what we saw at the lake is if you have waterfront property, not only did they increase, but in many cases they increased significantly. So you have a very wide range of values for properties and results for properties within the confines of the town. And not all properties, as I said last week, are created equal. Some go down more than others. While they'll pay less tax in terms of a percentage on the actual appraised value, the percentage will be a bigger percentage than what they had before. So let me state it another way. When the value of the property goes down 30 to 35% and the tax only goes down 10%, you've seen a net increase.
That's an effective increase in your taxes.
Is a net increase in your tax. And that's what you're seeing, and those at the lake, especially the lakefront owners, will see substantial increases, anywhere from 50 to 100%.
Right. And the businesses too. We shouldn't forget the businesses, ladies and gentlemen, because not only do they own real estate, but they also own substantial personal property in the form of their trucks, equipment, etc. Most of that tends to be much less volatile in terms of value than the real estate portion of our downtown. The businesses will, on the whole, face substantial increases. And remember, for a business that is operating on a 5 or 10% profit margin, a 20% increases in taxes can be the difference between a profit and a loss, the difference between staying in Winsted or not staying in Winsted, the difference between hiring someone in Winsted and not hiring someone in Winsted. The businesses face a double whammy. Not only do they face the taxes on their own property, but they must also deal with the fallout of taxes on their customers increasing. And so for all of the discussion that we've had concerning the residents, the fact that the downtown residents are going to see large declines in property value and declines in their taxes that are not as significant, the fact that the lake people will have significant increases in property value potentially and huge increases in taxes, the businesses get smacked both ways. They get hit both on their personal property taxes and the fact that their customer base is itself under great financial pressure. That's one half of the reval coin. The other half of the reval coin, obviously, is what underlies the reval, the growing dysfunction of our downtown neighborhoods and our commercial core, our Main Street. You know, all of the trends we're talking about in terms of property value are reflections of the fact that our neighborhoods are under great stress. Great stress from the foreclosure crisis, great stress from long-term trends in property trends here in town. And that has resulted in our Main Street being largely empty. I mean, a series of revolving doors.
Largely empty, and you know, as we have stated in the past, of the 3,500 to 4,000 units in town, half are owner-occupied, half are rentals. Of the total units, 20% of them are subsidized in some way, shape, or form, whether they be Section 8, whether they be elderly housing, you name it. Okay, but the subsidized housing ripples right through the fabric, the social fabric of the community. Number one, you have in many cases, single-parent households with kids in school, and they can't attend to the education of the child, and it's the performance on the grades in the school, and that's not to take away from the parent. It's the
Just life.
It's the social structure of raising a child with a single parent is very, very tough, and the outcome in some cases can be good, but in many cases it is detrimental to the education of the child.
So that's the big issue, ladies and gentlemen. The reval is the single biggest issue that we face in this budget cycle. The two sides of the reval: number one, the fact that we face impending tax increases in the order of 20% plus next year, and we need to start preparing for that. We need to start saving money, not spending money like drunken sailors. And then the other side of that particular coin, the fact that our downtown is broken and we need to start fixing it. We need to start making material, meaningful investments in our downtown to fix it. And those are the two issues above all else that our budget needs to address. So let's take 10 minutes and let's look at the budget and let's make a decision. Do we think it is addressing those issues? And I think we can safely say, without spending a whole lot of time, that we do not. But let's just walk through the issues one by one. Firstly, what actually is budget number 4? To all intents and purposes, it is exactly the same as budget number 3. Budget number 3, you will call, you rejected, overwhelming. Budget number 4 is the same budget with a little bit more spending. And where that spending came from was one-time revenue sources. They took one-time revenue sources, the retirement of a policeman, and a cash rebate from the dump, our DDD1, and instead of banking those, putting them in the fund balance, as you would normally do with one-time revenues, they used them to shore up the budget. They used them for ongoing expenses. They used it to actually increase the amount of spending in the budget. That's fundamentally what we have, ladies and gentlemen. The budget you rejected on steroids with a little bit of extra spending put in on the top.
And, you know, it's once again, it's one-time revenue, but the spending continues forever.
And this is spending with built-in increases, because it's spending on people with salary raises and benefits and all the double-digit type increases that come with salaries and benefits. What else is in budget number 4? Well, again, it's the same issues as budget number 3. More consultants. Consultants to write the P&Z regs. We all agree that the P&Z regs need to be updated. They need to be essentially gutted as far as downtown is concerned to allow maximum flexibility to our downtown developers. But that is not something we need to go out and spend $20,000 on. It may well be that we have packed our Planning and Zoning Commission with people who can't do planning and zoning. But in George Clausen, we have someone who can. He builds in every community in New England. He has seen every set of building regs, every set of town P&Z regs in New England. He knows what we need. He just needs to sit down and write them and save the town $20,000. Civil service. $6,000 we don't need to be spending. If we have a police chief who can't hire a policeman, we got the wrong police chief. If we have a town manager who can't hire a finance director, we have the wrong town manager. We don't need civil service to be telling us how to hire people. Subsidized housing. We talked about this last week.
It doesn't work. I mean, you increase the subsidized housing in the downtown area. you take away any critical mass that you can do for development of whatever you want, whether they be shops, whether they be boutiques,
right.
You know, you name it. But
yeah, it sucks the life out of town.
It sucks the life out of the town.
And you know, we have. I mean, one doesn't like to be cold-hearted about it, but we have arguably more than our fair share, certainly far more than our surrounding communities have. And enough's enough, ladies and gentlemen. For our town to be viable, we need some degree of demographic balance. And we are currently imbalanced. We are out of balance, and we need to get ourselves back into balance by investing in the neighborhoods. Other than that, you know, we have a couple of capital projects, both of which seem on the face of it to be grossly underfunded. We have the Holabird Bridge engineering project. They put, I want to say 70 or 100, I can't remember what the number was, $100,000 maybe into that. And yet it's a project which will cost $170,000, $180,000. What's the point of setting up a capital project if you don't have the money to actually complete the work?
Yeah, you know, once again, the complaint with especially the legislative people has always been that we go out and we get you the funding, we go out and get you the grants, but you never match them.
Right.
So.
And, you know, you can't pass a budget on the basis of, gee, look, we're doing Holabird, finally, everything that you wanted to do for the last 10 years, if you're not actually going to do it. And if you haven't fully funded it, it means you're not going to do it. Now, those are the highlights, ladies and gentlemen, what is actually in budget number 4. More spending, None of it doing anything new or more successful than the spending we already have. More consultants, the same old built-in pay increases and benefit increases that we have suffered under for so many years.
I got a call from a gentleman in Winchester, used to work for Ingersoll Rand. He's in his early 70s, early to mid 70s. And they were just notified by Ingersoll Rand Worldwide that they're not going to pay health benefits anymore.
Right.
So they had to go out. He and his wife had to go out and for $500 or $600 a month subsidize their Medicare plan.
It's happening all over the country, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, people who are currently employed are finding that their benefits are changing. Retirees are finding that the benefits that they, quote unquote, had worked for all their lives are changing. None of this is nice. None of it is what ideally one would like to do. But at a time when dollars are scarce, you have to do what you have to do. Which sort of brings us, I think, to what is not in the budget. What are the issues that we would like to see addressed in the budget that simply aren't there? What are the issues that would allow us to say, this is a great budget, go vote for it? And that first one, I think, is the fact that we have not made any real meaningful attempt to either trim our expenses or restructure our expenses to make them affordable today, to make them at a level such that you will say, yes, we'll vote for it, and to make sure that they don't include the sort of built-in increases that will make them unaffordable tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with a reduction. I mean, you have to retrench. And if you don't do that, you can do anything else after the fact, but you'll never generate enough free cash flow to do anything.
Right. I mean, whether it's a retrenchment in the number of people, or in the hours that they work, or in the way that they are paid.
Or the benefits.
Or the benefits, we need to bring things into alignment. We need to eliminate those areas of our costs that are growing out of control. Benefits are obviously the big one. When you have health benefits that are growing at double-digit rates each and every year, that's a problem. When you have defined benefit pension plans, which get far, far more expensive in times like today when investment returns go down, that's a problem. We simply can't afford them. Our labor attorney has told us that we are the last town in the universe to have these sorts of benefits, and we can't afford them anymore, ladies and gentlemen. And it will do our employees no good to hold on to them if we go bankrupt next year and they lose everything. That does the town no good, it does them no good. We need to start changing these things. But the other thing that this budget really does not cater to is the investment side of the coin.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about Halliburton. You know, $100,000 doesn't do it.
We need to sit down rationally, sensibly, as responsible adults and say, how do we invest our way out of this problem? Now, we cannot cut our way out of this problem. Let's be clear. We are not advocating cutting our way out of this problem. It cannot be done.
Yeah, not with cuts alone.
Right.
Okay, you have to cut.
The cuts are the foundation. That's step one. You cut to the point where things are now under control and affordable, and then you retrench and you restructure to get a better result out of those same dollars. So whether it's, again, restructuring the way we employ people, restructuring the way we pay people, restructuring the way we're completely organized. The schools are an example we've talked about week in and week out. Now, whether that's eliminating a school within the public system, whether that's being more efficient between public and Gilbert, whether that's being more efficient between public, Gilbert, Northwest Community College, you can cut the pie in so many different ways. And over time, we will have to keep cutting the pie, because this is a problem that is not going to get solved overnight, and it's a problem that whatever solution we find in the next 12 months, 24 months, will have to be modified and evolve over the next 10 years, depending on what happens with our enrollment and what happens with education funding statewide and nationwide. But right now we have to accept that the way we finance education, the way we use our buildings and our staff is grossly inefficient, and we can't afford it.
And you can't do it anymore.
We can't have 1.5 administrators. We can't have multiple administrations. We can't have duplicate finance departments. We can't have triplicate janitorial departments. This doesn't work. We're a small town with finite resources, with shrinking resources, to the extent that our grand list continues to shrink as it is currently. We need to recognize that. We need to deal with that by restructuring. And we need to make the downtown investments.
You have to. The downtown is the area that has seen the, I'll say the most programs that haven't worked over the last 20 years, it needs the most attention.
Right. I mean, it's
I mean, whether it be the footbridge up in the west end of town to, you can pick the spots in Winstead where there's viable traffic and viable businesses. And, the other parts of it are, dying.
right. I mean, we're not just talking about dollars and cents, although a significant portion of this is dollars and cents. We actually need to invest dollars and cents in our neighborhoods. But we also need to demonstrate a real commitment to being a good partner with developers. We have not historically been a good partner with developers. We have tended to hold developers at arm's length to tell them, you can't do this, you can't do that, we want you to do this, we want you to do that, and we reserve the right to change our minds at any time. That doesn't work for a developer. A developer needs to come in knowing he's going to make a profit in normal circumstances. He needs to know what the rules are. Whether this is a contractor taking over a single home, a single multifamily home, and turning it into a single occupied home, or whether this is someone taking over 1 or 2 mill buildings and sinking $30 or $40 million into it, his need is the same in each case. Rules that are well understood, rules that are flexible, a town that is willing to be a good partner. A budget is not just a document that deals with the financial issues of the year. It is the blueprint for going forward. And the budget needs to embody a commitment to this sort of flexibility with developers, be they individuals or be they corporations, be it small developments or big developments. And likewise, we need to embody a commitment to full disclosure. We're coming to the point of the year where traditionally we run out of cash. Every year, November, Christmas time, we run out of cash. Usually, we get bailed out by Gilbert. Gilbert gives us an interest-free loan for 2 or 3 months, and that's how the town gets through Christmas. If you're going to bring developers into town, you need to be clear with them how the town's finances actually work. We need to be clear to them what the short-term issues are, the short-term cash constraints, and what the long-term tax profile is going to be. It's not just a question of audits, although audits are the obvious foundation. It's full disclosure. This is what we want to be when we grow up. This is how we're going to structure ourselves when we grow up. This is how we can help you and how, ideally, you can help us. There has to be this commitment to full disclosure, to open communication.
Yes, and it works. I mean, you can take a larger community such as West Hartford that did Blueback Square.
Yeah.
I mean, they put it out to a referendum, it passed. There was opposition from a neighboring retail establishment. I mean, it was held up a little bit, but by and large, the developer went in and did what they said they were going to do, and I talked to people from West Hartford, they're happy with it.
Right.
Not everybody goes there, not everybody loves it, but it took care of a space in West Hartford that was rundown buildings and decaying, and it turned it into something that I think the community benefits from, at least through taxes.
It serves a real need in terms of cleaning up an area. It serves a real need in terms of generating customer traffic, in terms of generating business. And it serves a gigantic need in terms of filling in the kitty from tax dollars.
All right.
And we gotta accept that as being a viable model for town. I'm not saying turn every building into a pedestrian mall. But we've got to figure out what we can save and what we can't, and we've got to be clear with our developer partners that we can and will commit to make this work. So all that is a very long way of saying budget number 4 does not, in our estimation, make the grade. It doesn't work. It hasn't addressed our costs. It hasn't restructured the way we deliver our services. It hasn't committed to investing dollars and cents in our downtown, in our commercial districts. And it certainly hasn't made any commitment to a real partnership with those who can bring businesses to town, with those who can bring employees to town, with those who can bring investment dollars to town. And it hasn't created any commitment towards the full disclosure that we need to move things forward. It's been an example of the fits and starts, sideways jogs of we don't really want to give information, we won't tell you what's going to happen with the reval, we don't really want to publish a budget, we certainly don't want to give you any historical context. That doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't work that we should be in the last week before the referendum still explaining to you what's in the budget. It should be patently clear to everyone. There should be a nice, easy summary of what the budget is. How does it compare to past budgets? What is it trying to achieve? Budget number 4 increases spending. It collects more taxes than we collected last year. It fails to reinvest. It fails to control costs. It does not recognize the fundamental issue we face, the issue of the reval. Both the financial issue, the fact that for many people taxes will be going up very, very substantially, and the underlying structural issue, the fact that our downtown neighborhoods are broken, our commercial core is under water. It is not good enough to say pass this budget because it's embarrassing not to. It's not good enough to say pass this budget because it's a zero. It's not a zero. It's not good enough to say it's a small increase. Well, in conjunction with the reval, it's a huge increase. And it's a huge increase at a time when our neighborhoods can't afford it. And our voters generally are saying they want to see a better result for their money. They at the very least want to see where their money's gone.
That's all. I mean, right there. I mean, when you have people that are your elected leadership in the community stand up and say, we're not going to give it to you because you'll ask too many more questions.
I'm sorry, that doesn't work.
You know, that's why it's there, to generate questions, to make sure you're on your toes, doing what you're supposed to be doing.
And in an ideal world, if you have provided enough information and information in the right format, you won't get questions. You get questions when you provide too little information, the wrong information, information that is not calculated to be intelligible. If we provide the right information as leaders in town, then the citizens will read it, understand it, digest it, believe it, act upon it, be comfortable with the taxes that are baked into the budget, and we will have a community with a consensus moving forward to actually make change. You know, I don't want to be all hope and changey here, but we actually do have to change the way we're doing business here in Winsted, and budget number 4 doesn't do it. More spending, more taxes, no cost control, no audits, no investment in the downtown, no commitment to full transparency, full partnership going forward. We will be voting no.
Voting no, Saturday the 27th, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. at the Pearson School.
Please vote however you choose to vote. Please vote, and we will see you after the referendum. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.